Welcome to another episode of Real Faith Talk Show. I am your host, Monique Groves, and today we've got a great topic that I want to talk about. Today we're going to be examining the question of what makes a good leader. Now, I have five lessons. I have 5 lessons that I want to call out from the scripture that will kind of help guide this question, right? Will help us answer, or at least give us some insight as to what makes a good leader. Now, again, these are my kind of assessments based on the scripture. I'm going to be calling out 5 of them. So let's dive right in. Right. So number 1, what makes a good leader? The first lesson is that leader is invested in the lives of the people. Now, we're going to be again focused on the lessons from the scripture. Jesus is perhaps one of the best examples of investing in the lives of people. Okay, in particular, one example is coming out of John 4, verse 9 through 26. And he is talking to this Samaritan woman. Now, this Samaritan woman, she has a reputation in the local town. It looks like she's really an outcast amongst the crowd. But Jesus, he positions himself to speak with her, to talk with her. And so as he's talking to her, she's saying, I'm a Samaritan. We shouldn't even be talking. We don't worship the same way. We're not really supposed to be talking to one another. But God bypasses all of that. Just like in the real world, sometimes we have, leaders at our jobs. We may have a VP, or we may have a boss, or someone that is in a very high authority position, and we feel, those of us who may be in lower positions, or let's say lower management, we feel like, oh, we shouldn't talk to this person. But Jesus makes himself available to her, and he positions himself to talk with her. And as he talks to her, he starts to minister to her. He starts to really prophesy what she's dealing with. He asks her, he first asks her for something to drink. She gives him something to drink. We see that. But as the conversation is going on, we see Jesus asking her, where's your husband? And she's saying, I don't have a husband. And he's saying, yeah, you answered that correctly, because you've had 5 husbands and you're currently with someone right now. So she is immediately kind of caught off guard, because she doesn't, how does he know this? He knows about what she's dealing with. He knows that this is a woman who's been heartbroken. She's been devastated. She's been disappointed. She's been dealing with a lot of hurt and pain. And when he's telling her at the well, he says, if you drink of, when you start drinking from the kingdom, you won't thirst again. So the first lesson of a good leader is this leader is invested in the lives of the people. Okay, that is very important. So many of us in society, we see our leaders today, they don't seem very invested in people's lives. They are more concerned with, and I'm just going to use politics as an example, but you see these so-called leaders, or political leaders, or even community leaders. They don't seem interested in the people until it's time to be reelected. You don't see people really making themselves available until it's time for voting. And that's unfortunate, because a good leader, they're so invested in the people, they're always involved. They're always positioning themselves to talk with people and get to know what's going on in their lives. So this is a great lesson that we can kind of capture from Jesus, is that he made himself available to her, this Samaritan woman, and he knew what was going on with her. And once they finished having this conversation, the Samaritan woman immediately starts witnessing. Okay, she begins to witness to the men around the area. Like, I just met let me tell you about a man. Let me point you into the direction of this man named Jesus, because she was moved. Okay, no one had probably ever talked to her, or had ever tried to get to know what she was dealing with. She was probably a woman who was very much condemned and judged by people, which is something that we all do to one another. But Jesus didn't do that. He was a good leader, and he positioned himself to talk with her, and then also just get to know her and speak to her. So that's lesson number 1 is a good leader invests in the lives of the people. Now let's look at lesson number 2. Effective communicator. Yes, a good leader is an effective communicator. Now, one of the best examples that I personally love of this is when God he instructs Noah to build an ark. Okay, we all know the story. For those of you who don't know, this is Genesis 6:13 through 22. I'm going to read a little bit of the King James Version, and it says, "And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make them an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, and breadth of 50 cubits, and the height of 30 cubits. Now, this is effective communication. This is God instructing Noah, hey, I am going to do this. The world is becoming more violent. I'm going to end all flesh. Now, we know he ends flesh by sending the flood. So he's instructing Noah, I want you to build an ark, because I'm going to rebuild with the 8 people, which was Noah's family. And then he calls all the animals, everything after itself, to come into that ark. But look at how he does it. He's effectively telling Noah exactly how he wants the height to be, the width to be, what type of wood to use. He's being very descriptive of how he wants Noah to build this ark. This is good leadership. So many leaders, whether that be at the job, whether that be in church, whether that be, in the community, whatever. If you are a leader, you need to be you need to have effective communication. Don't just tell people to do something, but you're not descriptive of how you want them to do it. Give them a framework. Give them the instruction that they need. Don't, one of the things I think most people get so annoyed with when you might be instructed by your boss or your leader or your department leader to, hey, do this, or hey, I need this, but they are not giving you the instruction that you need. And so you are pretty much guessing. You're guessing what this boss wants, or you're guessing how they want something. And that is very frustrating, and it's actually very ineffective and inefficient. It wastes time. So if you are a leader, again, whether you're in the church ministry, whether you're in the corporate world, the business world, you may be an entrepreneur. When you are dealing with people that you are leading, you have to be you have to be an effective communicator. You cannot leave any type of ambiguity, because people don't know, they can't read your mind. So you have to be very clear on your purpose, your mission, your goals, what you're looking for, how you want it to look, what you're trying to do. It's just like somebody building you a house and you give them nothing. You just say, oh, I want a house. Well, how many rooms do you want? How many windows? What kind of outlets? What kind of, do you want it to be a 2-story, 1-story? You have to be very descriptive with people. So you have to be an effective communicator. All right, you have to. This is a great lesson from the Bible that we see that God does. He's very, very, very effective in his communication. He's very good at telling you exactly what he wants. And all throughout scripture, we see this. We see how he is just plain. Okay, he's very plain. So this is lesson number 2, effective communicator. A good leader is an effective communicator. All right, let's move down to number 3. Right? So number 3, a good leader is humble, not arrogant. All right? So the best example of humility that we see from the Bible is Jesus. He gave himself to humanity. All right? So in Mark chapter 10, verse 45, it says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as ransom for many." All right, so Christ, again, is the ultimate, he's the ultimate example of humility. He humbled himself. You know, he came down here. He came to earth. He could have just stayed where he was being worshiped. And he had all the glory, all the humanity. But he said, no, I need to come down there and give myself to humanity so that they can have a chance at salvation. So when you're in leadership, it is very important to be humble. Many of you, you're smart. Maybe you're a doctor, or you're an attorney, or you have a very, you're gifted. You have a great mind. Your mind is just great. You're very smart. You're very intelligent. When you are leading people, you can't lead with I know it all. I know, you have to be humble with people. You have to show humility, because sometimes that can be a turnoff. And I also think in the scripture, when Jesus was, I think it was the day right before I think it was Palm Sunday, and Jesus is going through the crowd with a donkey. He's not riding on the chariot. The chariot was, the what would be equivalent to a Mercedes, or a high-end vehicle today. He didn't do that. He came on a donkey. All right, he came very meek and humble. A lot of leaders today, they are not humble. They're so arrogant, and it turns people off. You come in just very, very just not humble, no humility. You look at your role as people are just supposed to serve you. But we see here that Jesus says, I didn't come for that so that people could really serve me. I came to serve you. So when you're in leadership, you're really serving other people. You're not really there for people to serve you. People may help you, but you're supposed to be of service. And that requires humbleness. That requires humility. And a lot of our leaders today, unfortunately, even if you look at today's worldly political system, you don't see any humility in people at all. It's all about them. It's all about what they want, how they want it, what they think. Is no humility in community leadership today. And again, this is just my opinion. But when you look at the news, you don't see it. When you look at some of these corporate leaders, they're very arrogant. They're very boastful. They may be very successful business people. They may be very wealthy, but they are not humble. They look at people as, you are just supposed to serve me. Even in our homes, even when we look at our family structure, if you're a husband, if you're a wife, sometimes you can just have this attitude of, oh, this person is just supposed to serve me. No humility. When you're working with people, again, when you are a leader, you are called to serve other people. You're called to serve. That's really what leadership is service. And you need to be humble to do it, not judging and condemning and breaking people down. And it's an act of humility. And we see that so well demonstrated in the character of Christ. Okay, he was the ultimate leader because again, he's sitting on the throne. He has people worshiping him, but he comes to earth and he lowers himself. He gets on the level of you and I so that he can serve us. And that is amazing. And that's a great lesson that we all can learn from him. So again, number 3, a good leader is humble, not arrogant. All right, let's go on to number 4. Okay, I think one of the most important lessons that we see from the Bible of what makes a good leader is they lead by example. Okay, so one of the best examples we see comes from Jesus, and he washes his disciples' feet. Okay, in John chapter 13 verse 5, it says, after that he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet. Okay, drying, what does it say? It says drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. So Jesus, again, he's constantly showing us this example of leadership. He's serving his disciples. How was he serving them? He's washing their feet. Now, the feet is the lowest part of the human body. And it's your feet, all of our feet, we walk, all day on our feet get dirty. Okay, it's actually one of probably the dirtiest places on the body. It's not a pleasant, it's not a pleasant thing. No, some people find feet kind of a turn off, but Jesus says, I'm going to serve you by leading by example, by washing your feet. This is also a sign of humility, but he's washing their feet. He's lowering himself, and he's leading by example because he's saying, this is what I want you to do for others. Not the physical act of washing feet, but I want you to serve other people. I want you to serve the needs of other people. And if we think about the biblical times when they were walking, they walked, I'm sure, on a lot of dust and dirt, so they had on sandals. So a lot of dirt was getting on their shoes, their feet all the time. And so their feet were dirty. And Jesus decided, you know what? I'm going to wash their feet. What an example. Okay, now that may not be what, as a leader, you need to do for your staff or your team or ministry, although I think it's a great act. It could be that you lead by example in how you behave. I think especially parents, you're leaders. So if you want to, teach your children, especially the way of God, if you're trying to train up your children in God, you have to lead by example. If you don't want your children listening to certain type of music, you can't listen to that music. If you want your children to be respectful, you have to be respectful to people. Your children shouldn't see you cussing somebody out or, just abusing somebody. They should see you showing the example that you want your children to take up. If you want your children, to not be selfish, you have to not be selfish. If you want to show your children, how to manage your home and how to treat people, you have to show them that by example. And this is no different than people in corporate America, leaders in the corporate world, business people. You have to be the example for your teams. You can't just tell them do. They need to see you doing it as well. I remember it was several years ago. I did an internship with Walt Disney World, and at the time I was cleaning rooms. I was an intern. I was working at the resorts, and we were so backed up. We were so busy, and I think we needed a particular room cleaned. I don't know if it was a VIP room. I kind of can't remember, but I remember the leader of that shift, the night leader, or one of the managers, one of the lead managers. He came into the room and started cleaning the room with me. He didn't just tell me, "Oh, hurry up, clean the room." He put his, managerial hat to the side, and he started cleaning the room. He started making the bed. And I had such a respect for him after that, because I said, wow, he's done it. He's been in the trenches with me. So when you're a leader, you have to sometimes be in the trenches with your people. Again, whether that's, whatever that role is, people need to see you sometimes, again, leading by example, getting into the trenches with people. And again, Jesus washing people's feet, that's leading by example. That's ultimate service. Because again, people's feet, who wants to clean somebody's feet? Jesus cleaned feet. He washed his disciples' feet. Okay? Most people, they don't even wash their own feet. They don't even wash their own feet. Jesus washed his disciples' feet because he was the example. He was showing his disciples, this is what I want you. I'm leading you. Even though he's again, he sits on the throne. He's God manifested in the flesh. But he said, I gotta show you the way. I gotta show it to you. I have to lead by example. He didn't tell his disciples, hey, y'all need to, wash my feet, even though he would have been in the right to do that. He said, no, I need to show you. I need to show you how to be a leader. I need to be the example. So that is number 4. Okay, can I say number 4? Yep, number 4. So let's talk about number 5 now. If you stay to the end, I have a bonus that I'm going to share. But let's talk about number 5. Okay, number 5 is a good leader is an effective manager. What do I mean by that? Now, not all managers are leaders, but every good leader is an effective manager. Okay, so Jesus shows this when he was feeding the 5,000, right? So I'm going to read. This is, let me see where this is. This is Matthew, and so we all know the story. There was a bunch of men and women following Christ all day, and soon they got hungry. So let's see. Let's go look at this verse, Matthew 14:13 through 21, and it says, when Jesus, actually I'm going to skip down a little bit. I'm going to pick up at 15, and it says, as evening approached, the disciples came to him, which is Jesus, and said, this is a remote place. It's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can come to the villages and buy themselves some food. Jesus replied and said, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answered. And Jesus said, bring them here to me. He directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people, and they all ate and were satisfied. So here we're seeing that Jesus, he managed what he had. Okay, he was a great manager. So we see how he multiplied what he had, but he never complained, oh, this ain't enough. Or, no, he was, hey, this is what we have, let's make it work. So a good leader is very resourceful. They manage their resources well. Okay, they don't waste anything. They're not wasteful. They know how to make what they have work. Right? Because you may be an entrepreneur, you may be just getting started, you don't have a whole lot of financial resources, so you make what you have work. You may be a teacher, you don't have a whole lot of material, but you make what you have work, and just on and on. So a good leader is a very effective manager, knows how to optimize what they have, all of their resources, whether that's financial, whether that's people, whether that's knowledge, whether that's technology, food resource, whatever, equipment, vehicles, whatever. You know how to effectively manage what you have, and you manage it very well. And pay attention to this, because it said that they all ate and were satisfied. So when a manager, when a good leader is an effective manager, everyone is satisfied. Everyone is satisfied because you know how to manage what you have. You know how to work with what you have. Okay, you may not have a big team, but you know how to effectively manage them. You know how to manage a workload so that you don't burn down your people. You know how to manage your time well. You know how to manage the time of other people. You're not having people spend time that is where they don't need to be. So they're effective in how they manage money, how they manage time, how they manage people. And look how Jesus managed everything. There were 5,000 men and women, and they were hungry. Let's just set the scene. These people were probably very hungry. So people don't act the best when they're hungry. So Jesus was able to take care of the need with what he had. Nobody went out and bought anything. He was effectively able to manage what he had. And then he was able to, you see him delegate. He can't feed all them. He didn't multiply the food and say, okay, I'm a one by one feeder. No. He used his team. Okay, he was able to effectively manage his team and say, team, I'm going to delegate this to you. And he was telling them, hey, take the food, go pass it out. And everybody was fed, everybody was satisfied. So he knew how to manage. He really, really knew how to manage. And as a good leader, you have to know how to manage. You have to know how to manage a household. You have to know how to manage a budget. You have to know how to manage time. You have to know how to manage talent. You have to know how to effectively manage. Okay, so those are the 5. I want to give some bonus. I want to say a bonus here. The other key to being a good leader is you gotta know how to. You have to know how to build a team. So we see with Jesus, he knew how to build a team. He built a team because he was able to, gather the disciples. He chose each disciple. All right, so let's look at Luke, all right, chapter 6, 12 through 16. And it says Jesus, he chose 12 apostles. All right, and it says one day soon after Jesus went to the mountain to pray, and he prayed to God all night. Let me see this here. He prayed to God all night. At daybreak, he called together all of his disciples and chose 12 of them to be apostles. Okay, that was Simon, that was Andrew, that was James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, Simon, and then he chose Judas, who ultimately would betray him. So he knew how to assemble a team. And to go a step further, Jesus knew his team. He knew their strengths. He knew their weaknesses. He knew how to use them. He knew where to use them. He had assignments for all of them. Peter was the rock. He said you're the rock. He made Judas, the treasurer. So he had roles for each of them to play. So this is what a good leader does. A good leader builds a team. Not only just builds a team, but understands how to use that team. It's just like a sports team. You have to know people's talents, their weaknesses, what they're good at, when they're good in certain moments. When there's especially I'm just going to use sports as an example. Some, like if you think of a football game, I'm not a huge football person, but when there's a critical point in the game, maybe it's the fourth quarter, maybe the score is tied. Everybody on that on that team is not called to that moment. Everyone on that team is not called for that moment to be heroic or to lead the team to victory. There are certain people on that team who are called to do that. Okay, and a good leader, again, whether that's a coach, whether that's a minister, whether you know who that person, you know who that go-to person is. You know, in basketball, you know, we know the Chicago Bulls were very successful in the early 90s. You know, Phil Jackson knew during a certain moment, you know, particularly fourth quarter, he knew who he was. He knew the player he was going to call on, Michael Jordan. He knew that was the player that was going to lead the team to victory if that were the case, right? So as a leader, you need to know your team. You need to know your team. You need to be able to know their strengths, their weaknesses, what they're good at, okay? What makes them tick? What motivates them? Okay, what can cause them to burn out? Right? So that's another, again, just bonus, but another great lesson that we see from scripture that Jesus illustrates about a good leader is you have to know how to assemble a team. All right, so that's it. Those are the top, 5. I gave you a bonus one, but let's just recap real quick. So the signs of what makes a good leader is these 5 things. And again, these are just, my opinions. I'm sure there's multiple lessons from God that we can take from the scripture. But again, number 1 is a good leader is invested in the lives of the people that they are serving or impacting. That's number 1. A good leader is an effective communicator. All right, they don't just tell people what they want, but they give them explicit instruction of how they want things done. All right, number 3, they're humble. They're not arrogant. They know how to humble themselves. They know how to give up themselves and actually, again, just serve people, because leadership is about service. All right, lesson 4 is they lead by example. A good leader leads by example. They just don't tell you what they want. They show you what they want. They illustrate it. They do it. They live it themselves. They're not gonna ask you to do something that they themselves would not do. All right, and then number 5, they're an effective manager. All right, I said that not all managers are leaders, but every leader is an effective manager. All right, they know how to use all of their resources effectively. All right, and then the bonus that I gave you was a good leader knows how to build a team, and not just build a team, but they know how to develop that team also. They know what motivates that person. They know where that person needs to be. They know their strengths, their weaknesses, all of those things. So those are those are what I have. All right, let me know what you think. Do you agree with this? All right, if you're a leader, let me know what you think. Let me know your feedback. All right, I think the scriptures are filled with so many great lessons and points of how we can kind of use in our day-to-day lives. And so I think this is a great topic that really kind of brought that all together. So guys, that's all I have today. Thank you so much for watching. All right, if you are interested in any faith-filled books, please go check out my online bookstore at ShereePublishing.com. And until next time, be safe, be blessed, stay focused on God, and I love you. Bye-bye. Are you a child of God struggling with fear? Well, I have great news. In my ebook, Fear Not, I will give you 5 key strategies of how you can overcome fear and finally live by faith. Don't wait. I know this book is going to help you reclaim victory in your life. I can't wait to hear your testimony.